talks about life as a Jet fan. What could I possibly mean? It's not a good life. No. Look, I remember when I was like 10 years old, and and was this the little bit of interest I had in football started because of the Rams. I think it was the 1980 Super Bowl, and that got it a little going. Like the family, for the first time, football was a big deal. It was in the house. I don't know why. My oldest brother was rooting for, I believe, the Rams at the time. I didn't even understand it. I was like, why? Who cares about the Rams? Who cares about the Steelers? I like the Mets. I was a baseball fan already. I didn't really care about anything else, but you know, to me, football looked like just a bunch of guys crashing into each other, and I didn't know what was going on. And then I think I was in fifth grade. This kid, Mike, in fifth grade, he had this weird habit. He'd lick his lips, and he had a big scar around his mouth. I just had to point that out because it's like impossible to think about this kid and not think about that because it was such a big thing. It was the way everybody identified this kid. He's the kid that keeps licking his face and he has this red ring around his face. There's just no way to ignore something like that. I had hair. If I was bald like this at that time, I wouldn't be upset or surprised that that's how people would talk about me. Like, this guy was bald. It was fifth grade. He was just crazy bald guy. But anyway, this guy had a big ring mouth, but he won the spelling bee for the whole school, by the way. No one knew he could spell. One day we had a competition in our classroom and he won. And I didn't know what that meant, but I just got eliminated right away because I can't spell to save my life. Next thing I know, we're in the auditorium, the whole school, and he's up there with the winner from every class. And the motherfucker won. And we went nuts. And everybody forgot about the red thing around his mouth for a while. He was that kid that won the spelling bee. Anyway, somehow he ends up in my house because I'm not a guy who judges people because they have a red ring around their mouth. I forgot how it happened. It was like like we didn't organize back then. You didn't organize play dates from the parents. Parents weren't even involved. He lived close to me and just walked over my house. I must have said, "Come over and play video games or something." But anyway, the football game was on the TV. And I don't know why, but I started to like follow it a little bit the couple of previous weeks. There was a guy named Richard Todd, and they were talking about how the Jets are going to make the playoffs, and if they win this game, they're going to make the wild card. And I don't remember those games, but I remember starting to care. And the next thing I know, we're turning on the TV, and it's a Jets playoff game. It's the wild card game against the Bills, and they're losing. Um, but I didn't know enough at that time to lose hope or any. I didn't know anything. All I know is the Jets started to come back, score, and I started to figure the game out as I was watching because we played two-hand touch in the streets. I mean, I understood the basic concepts like everybody else. I just didn't know. I didn't know about holding or offsides or I didn't know the nuances of football, but I understood. We're trying to score. Um, and we were at like the 22-yard line. We had a chance to come back. And I remember being really into it right away. Something about this team, and I've talked to other Jet fans who share this. There's something about this team that just sucks you in. It's beyond my understanding. Something about it. Something about this freaking team. And, yeah, interception. Richard Todd throws an interception. Anyway, by the time that Super Bowl is over, I'm a Jet fan. You know what I mean? At that point, I'm just a Jet fan. I remember being in my friend's house talking about like the next season. I remember losing to Miami twice during the regular season and being pissed. I remember the playoff run that we made when we beat the Raiders and we beat the Bengals and the Raiders. I remember there was a commercial like advertising the game with Richard Todd where they said the Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year because they had been. They lost to the 49ers. And Richard Todd said, yeah, but this year they got to play the New York Jets. And we won that game. And then we played the Raiders. And they were the ones I thought of as the guys who get interceptions. Mark Haynes and Lester. or something. Like they had these two, they were intercept kings. But anyway, we played the Raiders and we were the ones getting the interceptions. And I didn't realize that it was because I didn't know what sacks even meant really. I mean, I didn't wasn't it was because we would put the quarterback under so much pressure because Mark Gastineau, Joe Klecko, and Abdul Salam, and these guys were putting some Marty Lyons. They were putting so much pressure on the quarterback they would throw interceptions. And lo and behold, we won. And then this is my first full year as a Jets fan, and we're a game away from the Super Bowl. So I got off to such a promising start. I almost won the Super Bowl within the first year of being a fan. And then, the famous mud ball happened. And somewhere in New Jersey was an ugly kid named Kyle. Um, and he was with his aunt. His aunt Gina turned him into a fan, and he was watching somewhere. Some ugly kid. Not very smart, not a very bright kid, not a very smart kid. Um, he had a lot of facial hair for a kid that age. He was like 8 years old and he already had facial hair. So he was definitely like somebody who's destined in life to have a beard and be a Jets fan. But anyway, he was watching. There was a guy. Who else? There were other guys that we know that were watching wherever they were. I think Tony Alexio may have been watching that game somewhere, out in Long Island, screaming, "Give it to the Johnny Hector package, or the Freeman McNeil package," screaming something about package. There we were, right in the first year of fandom, a game away from the Super Bowl, but we had lost to Miami twice that year. Um, so we didn't know it at the time, but this was like the last chance because very soon they would get this quarterback that would make life very difficult for us. Didn't win them a Super Bowl, but made life very difficult for us. This was before those days. They had like almost like a platoon, like two quarterbacks that would, if I remember correct. You don't know which one you were going to be playing. They weren't great. They weren't very scary. But for some reason, when we played them that day, our offense was just, they had their defense was called the Killer Bees. Miami. They were the Killer Bees. And it was weird because we got there with interceptions. And then that day, Richard Todd, that interception he threw in that wild card game the year before against Buffalo was the foreshadowing that I dreaded. He threw 5 interceptions, 3 to one player named A.J. Dewey. And the announcers kept saying, A.J. Dewey again. We lost that game 14-0. So if you take away those 5 interceptions, who knows if we win that game? I wouldn't, we just couldn't score. We couldn't score. We lost that game, and my heart was broken. But I thought we'd be back, and I don't know, 84 was kind of eventless the next year. And I think that was the year we realized we needed a quarterback, and Ken O'Brien came along in the draft. It was interesting, as I mentioned, that Miami would soon have a quarterback and things would change for them. We could have had that quarterback. As a matter of fact, every Jet fan at that time seemed to, I wasn't much, I didn't know about the draft yet. I was still in those early days. I didn't know shit. But I remember, I think it was my brother or somebody put on the TV or something, or watched a playback of it. I somehow it got into my head that I got to see it. All these Jet fans were chanting. They were chanting, Danny, Danny. You see, back then you didn't see a lot of college football. You only saw what was local. And Pittsburgh was an East Coast school, and they were a good program. So you would see a lot of Pittsburgh. On the East Coast, we knew who Pittsburgh was, and they had this great quarterback named Dan Marino. And just for some reason, of course there were fans that had their problems with him, right? I don't like him. But most of the fans, for the most of the fans, he was generational. And that's, when you have all these good quarterbacks in a draft, and there was a lot. That was the John Elway draft. John Elway. Todd Blackledge was a great college quarterback who just happened to be a bust. But there was Todd Blackledge, who actually got picked before we picked, even. He got picked before Marino, also, which a lot of great quarterbacks in that draft. Tony Eason was a great college quarterback. He played for New England for a while in the NFL. Anyway, when it came to us, when Kansas City took Todd Blackledge, the Jets fan base lost their minds. They could not believe it. They were going absolutely bat crazy, chanting, Danny, Danny. The Jets come up to the podium and say, from UC Davis, the Jets take Ken O'Brien. And you fans holding their heads, crying, screaming, what's going on? How is this happening to us? Let me tell you something about Ken O'Brien. He was not a bad quarterback. If he didn't tear his rotator cuff at a time where we didn't have the technology and the surgeries and the type of recovery and rehabilitation that we have today, who knows what would have happened to Ken O'Brien. But don't be fooled. He was no Dan Marino. Okay? There are people who try to say, oh, but he used to bang with him, back and forth, and he was as good as Marino before he got hurt. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. He wasn't Dan Marino. He was very good, and he could have been a really good quarterback for us, but he was not as good as Dan Marino. Dan Marino is arguably the greatest passing quarterback in the history of football. Okay, Ken O'Brien was not him. He was very good. He was the best Jet quarterback, probably the most talented best Jet quarterback we ever had, not counting trades and one-year rentals like Brett Favre or whatever, or Aaron Rodgers, whatever argument people want to make. But as far as quarterbacks that we drafted, even Chad Pennington, who was very good before he got hurt, Ken O'Brien had a bigger arm. He used to throw touchdowns. Like, a lot of people, it'll be a bias because they only remember Chad Pennington, so they'll deny it. But if you watch the whole tape, I would say that, aside from Joe Namath, and that was a different era, like talent-wise, the best quarterback we ever drafted and had was Ken O'Brien. So, but he was no Dan Marino. So we had to live with that. And of course, of course, of course, Dan Marino made his debut against the New York Jets, like everybody else. And it's like amazing. Dan Marino was the original Tom Brady. Like, you want to think that, you want to talk about the Jets and Tom Brady's debut? Dan Marino. He came out and in half a game lit it up right from the first snap. And all those Jet fans that were chanting Danny said, see, I told you. I mean, it was instantaneous. He was unstoppable. The guy was unstoppable. You know what was great about Dan Marino? He could throw a great deep ball. There's no question. And he had great receivers in Mark Duper and Clayton. But the thing about Marino was his 15-yard passes were like handoffs. They were like they were that much of a sure thing. His accuracy was insane from close distance. Anything within 15 yards, his accuracy was disgusting. You couldn't stop this guy. You couldn't stop him. It reminded me of Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts was the pre-Marino, but people forgot about. But he used to be like that. Short passes all over the field, like Warren Moon. There are some of these guys, these great players that get forgotten, that were just so accurate. Phil Simms was actually incredibly accurate within 15 yards. He didn't have the big arm, but so accurate. So Dan Marino made the easy look easy. And he had a quick release, so he was so hard to sack. Because boy, he was decisive. He got rid of the ball quickly, and when it was time to throw the ball, quick release. The guy was incredible. The fans knew it. The only people that didn't know it was the Jets management and Kansas City, apparently. You can't blame them for taking John Elway. But man, that's the greatest quarterback draft ever, by the way. Just when you say Marino Elway together in the same draft is disgusting. Disgusting. Forget everything else. That's disgusting. So all of a sudden, now we have to, it's more than, and this is how I got introduced to being a Jet fan. The team that broke my heart and beat us in the AFC Championship, my first full year as a fan, ends up getting the quarterback that we didn't take, and he becomes a Hall of Fame quarterback. Top 5 in history. Miami fans will argue he's the best in history. People will say Super Bowls. I don't see how you could compare him at this point to guys like, um, like obviously Tom Brady. You can't compare anyone to him. I always thought Joe Montana was better, even though that Dan Marino's a better passing quarterback than Joe Montana. Joe Montana was just, I don't know, man. If I was building a team, like when you go back overall, leadership, learning ways to win, durability, I don't know. I was always a Montana guy. I love Joe Montana. I love Joe Montana. He was great. So much fun to watch. He was so good. But anyway, you get half a dozen of another. And if you have Dan Marino at quarterback, you're not going to cry. But we could debate all day. People could debate. It didn't matter. The point is, he's one of the greats. Nobody denies he's one of the greats. You talk about the great quarterbacks of all time. You talk about Joe Montana. You talk about Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes now, right? Making history, whatever. You talk about Dan Marino, you talk about Steve Young, maybe. There's certain guys you just talk about as one of the the greats. Peyton Manning, John Elway, right? Dan Marino is one of those names. Nobody outside Jets world says Ken O'Brien. Doesn't matter if he got hurt or not. So that was my experience year one. Year one, we lose we don't pick a Hall of Fame quarterback. We pick Ken O'Brien. And that's how it got. And then, of course, he does his commute against us. And that's how all of this gets started. That's how this fandom gets started for me. And for that ugly kid in New Jersey, who for some reason started to go by the name, like he would tell people, call me Green. Nobody understood why. But anyway, he was like, yeah, hey, Green. People would call him Green. They stopped calling him by his regular name. It was just, he always knew something was missing. He wanted a second part of that, something to come after the word green. He didn't know yet. All he knew is he was the only 12-year-old, or at that time, by that time he was 9, 10. He had a beard starting to come out. He had to start shaving, and he really didn't understand much, except, he loved Mickey Schuler, loved him. He loved Mickey Schuler. Tight end became his favorite position. Anyway, the next couple of years didn't go so great for us. I mean, we were good, but it didn't go so great. And then comes 1986 season, and we're back in the playoffs. And we had a great start to the year. We were 10-1, right? So things were looking great. Ken O'Brien, right? Like, maybe he's not Dan Marino, but he's really good. And this coach Joe Walton seems to be this good coach, because here we are. Joe Walton's got us 10-1. And then O'Brien gets hurt, tears his rotator cuff. In comes Pat Ryan, our backup quarterback. And the Jets lose 5 in a row. And we finish this season 10-6. And then we find ourselves in a wild card game against the Browns. And wouldn't you know it, it's the end of the game, and we're ahead. They're down to their last down, 4th down. And we apparently won the game. They didn't get the first down or whatever. There's going to be a turnover on downs, but a flag goes up. And Mark Gastineau gets called for roughing the passer. Roughing the passer. Think about that for a second. The game is over. The game is over. No, it's not. Flag. Roughing the passer. Yeah. There's no words for it. This is like year 3 or whatever of my freaking fandom. And this is what we're living through already. Already. I want you to know it went completely downhill from there. Ken O'Brien was never the same. The losing began. Joe Walton got fired. He went to Pittsburgh as an offensive coordinator. They didn't score a touchdown for 3 games. Pittsburgh fans were cheering We're holding signs that would be J, nothing E, and on the below it it would say Joe, where's the O? So I remember that. So here we are, entering the 90s, late 80s, 90s, losing team. Losers, as my mother would say. You're rooting for a bunch of losers. And then I would say, well, what should I be, a Cowboys fan? Because she was always like making fun of me, saying they're America's team. They sucked also, 89, 90. She says, you wait and see. Sure enough, they made that crazy trade of Herschel Walker and Jimmy Johnson came, and that was the rest was history. Dallas had a dynasty. Um, that's another story. So the late 90s was just terrible times. It was like now. It was like the last bunch of years now. It was terrible times. Late 80s, early 90s, just terrible times. I mean, just mediocrity, no hope. The best player on the team was, in my opinion, the only guy I loved was this guy named James Hasty. He's a cornerback who I loved because he never shut up and he talked crap. Then eventually Kansas City stole our entire secondary, so that was all gone anyway. And then came along a coach named Rich Kotite to turn everything around. Now, one thing to note about this guy, Rich Kotite, and this made no sense to me because by now I was catching on. I was a fan, right? Now I've been, 10 years now. Now I'm going, I'm in college. And I'm thinking, Rich Kotite, what the F is going on here? This guy was just lost the last 8 games of the season in a row in Philadelphia and got fired. And they showed some kind of, inside the NFL show where he's mic'd up and you knew he was just the worst. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Just clueless. He came across as just such a putz. And then now he's our coach. This is our coach. This is the best they can come up with. Rich Kotite, who lost 8 games in a row for the Eagles to end his tenure there. He was terrible for us. We could look deep inside Rich Kotite and say he did one thing for the New York Jets. One thing. He loved Wayne Corbett. That's it. Nobody knows. I mean, whatever reason, he saw something in Wayne Corbett. So Rich Kotite did one good thing for the New York Jets organization. He believed in and, encouraged and brought in Wayne Corbett. Okay. Thanks for your contribution. So now here we are. It's been, I don't know, since 1986. It's been 10 years. 10 years, just like these 10 years, just frustration and and it's not very good football. And then in comes Bill Parcells. Brings in Vinny Testaverde. And the magic begins. Brings in Curtis Martin. Possibly to this day, my favorite Jet of all time. Maybe, I don't know. Curtis Martin was special. And all of a sudden, we're a winning team. All of a sudden, we're men, as Green Bee would say. We're men. We're playing rough football. Defense, we're obnoxiously rough, tough, rigid, don't like to give up a yard. Everyone hits hard. We would pound the ball. Suddenly, we put together an offensive line. Jumbo Elliott came over from the Giants for the last couple of years of his career, and he was still good. And that's when we still built up this offensive line, and we started to start a tradition of having great center play. We were good, really good. And in 1998, we went back. This is 15 years later. It took 15 years, but we got back to the AFC Championship game. Now I'm 24, 25 years old. I hadn't been back in this game since I was 10 years old. And here we are. And I'm in San Diego watching with my brother. And the Jets are up 10-0 at halftime. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we might make it to the Super Bowl. To the Super Bowl. It's happening. And then we came out and we lost. Broke my heart again. Broke my heart again. And what happened? Come out next year. We're the favorites now, though. Everyone's like, whoa, they got so good so fast with Parcells. They're only going to get better, right? Right? They're only going to get better. Vinny Testaverde's ready to go, lead the team. We're all good. We got Curtis Martin. We, who know, I forgot who we drafted, but things are starting to happen. Wayne Corbett's getting better and better. Everything's coming together. This is the Jets' year. This is the year that we're going to win the Super Bowl, baby. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And what happens? You think what happened to Aaron Rodgers the first time he was a Jet, the first drive was the first time that happened to us? Well, you're wrong. Vinny Testaverde drops back, no contact, tears his knee or ankle. I forget which. Doesn't matter. Testaverde out for the year. Jets back to shit. Back to shit. And then we just spun away, and it all ended. More pain for the Jets fans. More pain. We disappeared for a while. We stayed a little competitive. A couple of guys came in. We weren't horrible. We weren't good. We weren't nothing. Right? Along comes 2004. Herm Edwards is the coach now. Chad Pennington is the quarterback. He's doing great. He's doing great. Like putting up, doing things like getting us excited that we may have had. Thanks, Billy. It was a torn Achilles for Testaverde. He was doing so good for us. Chad Pennington, it was so exciting. Everything's great. Everything's going really well. We're in the playoffs again. Here we are, and we play the San Diego Chargers. And I bring up this game because I'm there. And yes, some guy at halftime wanted to fight me for no reason other than he knew I was rooting for the Jets. So he came over and was staring me down like he was going to fight. Yeah, let's get thrown out of the stadium. Fighting each other because I like a different football team. I wasn't even being obnoxious. I wasn't cheering loud, nothing. He just decided that he's going to stare me down. So he walked away. Yeah, whatever. And this little girl, she must have been 7, 8 years old behind me. I like kids, but this kid needed to, you know what I mean? This kid, you want to put her in a freaking garbage compactor. You want to beat the shit out of the parents for not shutting her up. Chargers, Chargers. You're not allowed to root for the Jets. This is the home of the Chargers. She didn't shut up the whole time. And let me tell you something. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to get into a confrontation with people. But when we won that game, I wanted to go to that little girl and say, Chargers! Anyway, we won that game. It's like the only time I saw the Jets win. Every game I go to, they lose. My whole life, up until now, they've lost the last 4 games I went to. They never win in front of me. But in San Diego, seeing them in San Diego, they won. A playoff game. And it was amazing. I got home to my brother's house in San Diego. I was so happy. I was so happy. And then next week we had to play Pittsburgh. And I knew it was a long road. We got to be at Pittsburgh. And then even if we get through that game, you knew Tom Brady and the New England Patriots would be waiting for us. And I had a business trip. I was that AFC Championship game. I was going to be in Orlando in a nice fancy hotel. But I got on the plane from San Diego to go home to the Bay Area. And somebody else is wearing a Jet jersey. Where are you from? Because I live in Mountain View. I said, I live in Santa Clara. Not far from each other. This is all the Bay Area. It's like 10 minutes apart. I said, where are you watching the game next week? And he said, there's a bar in Mountain View that, a few Jet fans go to. I said, what's the name of the bar? It's like, it's right next to Murphy's Law. All right, cool. May have been Murphy's Law. I'm not even sure. So I go there and I meet them there. I don't have to watch the Jet game alone. And we watched that game against Pittsburgh. And our second round draft pick kicker, we drafted a kicker in the second round. So because we were smarter than everyone else in the world. And we knew that we're not going to lose because of field goals. Wrong. Twice he lined up from inside 40 yards, 42 yards, twice. On both occasions, both of those kicks would have won us that football game, and it would have been on to New England for another AFC championship game. But we missed. Twice we missed, and we lost. And as I lay in that bar, face on the ground, on a floor, on a surface that wasn't meant for a human face. But I didn't care. I didn't care about all the grossness that was on that floor of that bar, coming from the bottom of people's shoes. I didn't care. I couldn't move. They had to lift me up. Somebody thought I was really drunk. You drank too much. I said, no. And someone had to explain for me, the guy from the plane, he didn't drink too much. He's a Jet fan. That was all you had to say. And I got onto a phone with a friend of mine who unfortunately has passed away. So it's almost like in that moment, it set off the rest of history for him. He said, Jeremy, we're middle aged now. I don't know about middle aged. I was, well, I was 33. But he's a big guy and he wasn't very healthy. So in his mind, he was like, I don't got that many more years left, Jeremy, he said to me. Because I don't know if I'm ever going to see this team win a Super Bowl. So I'm starting to doubt it. I wanted to say starting. And he passed away a couple of years ago. Lifelong friend of cancer. So he never got to see them win again. But it stuck with me because I started to worry. That's how this is for some people, Matt O'Leary was probably in diapers. And I'm already worrying that I'm never going to see the Jets win a Super Bowl at 33 years old because it had been 23 years of disappointment at that point. 23 years. The curse was just going. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah. It's never fun losing a friend. So 2005, 2006, 2007, McGenius comes along. This guy from New England or whatever starts to put together a good team, but we're not winning anything. We're not winning. And then we hire Rex Ryan, and I remember a guy named Dean Eddie, because he was a dean in the school I was working for. So now it's like 2009. It's like another 5 years that went by for now I'm 37, 38. And he said something to me that was interesting. He said, this guy, Rex Ryan, he goes, he's going to rebuild this team. He goes, we had Brett Favre. He got us off to the good start. It fell apart, but this is a good roster. And he said, I know what's going to happen. Rex Ryan is going to get us. He's going to rebuild this team. He's like, he's going to do great. We're gonna make it to the championship games, and we're going to compete. And he goes, and we're probably going to get our hearts broken. That's what he said. That's exactly what happened. Rex Ryan comes in. We go to 2 AFC championships in a row. I got to say this because this is a huge thing to say. And if you want more information on this, if you go into Amazon and type my name, Jeremy Cravat, Krevat, Jeremy Cravat, on Amazon, you will see a book called In Sickness and Health. In Sickness and in Health, it's a book co-written by me and my wife, and it basically shows what's going on in our life while the second year of that second Rex Ryan run, that second AFC championship game was going on. While it was in the playoffs, I was watching from a hospital because my wife had just received a new heart and needed a heart transplant. Yes, that happened to me. I got married, and 6 months later, she got a rare disease that attacked her heart, and I spent 3 months in a hospital every day, working, running to the hospital, running home late at night, going to sleep, getting up, going to work, hospital, Friday from after work till Sunday at midnight in the hospital. That was my life for 3 months as the Jets made a run to the AFC Championship game for the second year in a row. And as I sat there with my wife and she was recovering, I think it was Yeah, it was it was after the heart transplant. She was it? No, no, no. It couldn't have been. Oh, I think it was. Um, I remember I got in trouble because as she was recovering from this heart transplant, and she's laying in the bed on that little shitty TV that's in a hospital room. It was worse because she was in the recovery unit from a heart transplant. So things are going in and out of her wires, and I'm sitting next to her, and I'm looking at the little TV, yelling and cheering and going crazy. I think it was the Charger game or the Colts. I forgot which one. We beat somebody, um, and we go back to the AFC Championship game that year, and as everybody knows, um, was that the year? The second? I don't know. I think that was the year that we lost to Pittsburgh. We had shot our load against New England, and then we lost to Pittsburgh. And yeah, she got a new heart, man. My wife got a new heart. And just to let you know, not to ruin the book, because I'm hoping you'll get the book. It's called In Sickness and in Health. It's written by Jeremy Cravat and Jocelyn. It's on Amazon. We've sold over 3,000 copies. So it comes up really easily if you type our name, because it's not like a hidden little thing. It actually sold a real amount of copies for a while. Um, you'll find out from that book that, yeah, I mean, you won't find, that book only gets us to getting home. But to give you an update, 3 years after my wife came home with a new heart, she and I ran a half marathon together. So crazy, crazy. Yeah, she got this crazy rare disease, one in like incredibly rare. Like at that time, there were 50 known cases in all of history on the databases from the hospitals. Usually happens to kids. But here, she ran a half marathon. She's still alive today. She's in better shape than I am. Right now, better shape than I am. Deals with a lot of taking tons of medication and shit, but better shape than I am. Like, and I'm convinced she's alive because of that, because she stays in shape. But so that's like, that's why it's hard to bitch about the Jets. I'm sitting here giving the sad story of a Jet fan while I'm talking about the miracle of the fact that my wife is still alive. But little did I know when we lost that game to Pittsburgh. I just gave you my whole history of a Giant. Not 2 AFC Championship games in a row we lost. Right, most of us are caught up now. Almost everyone listening, except for that kid from Wyoming, Wyatt. He's the only one, right, that wasn't around for that. I'm sure all of you remember losing those 2 games. It was terrible. It was awful. We hated it. Right, more heartbreak. Here we go. All of a sudden, Rex Ryan and Sanchez couldn't do it anymore. The roster started aging and they couldn't replace the players. And Sanchez, they started relying on him to actually be a quarterback. And it turns out that we didn't have a Curtis Martin to give the ball to 90% of the time. He wasn't a very good quarterback. So that lasted a couple of years. And then we started the 15-year run. So we've had 15 years of not making the playoffs, and this is the longest. Because as bad as things were in the late 80s and 90s, and it was bad, never was it 15 years. Like, this is the worst. So who knew when we lost that game to the Steelers, we would start the worst run in the history of the team. After all the suffering, little did I know the worst was yet to come. And guess what? It's probably going to be 16 years because we're not going to make the playoffs next year. Very little hope. There's a tiny bit of hope. It's happened. Teams have turned around in 1 year, but there's such a slight chance that we're making the playoffs next year. Such a slight chance. So it's going to be 16 years. And then maybe we have hope if they draft well and we actually get some type of quarterback who has some level of competency. Maybe the year after that, we're going to make the playoffs. Maybe. And I say maybe because this defense is disgusting. We have no defense and no quarterback. So we have so much that we have to fix. We have to find the quarterback, but we also have to get some defense in because there's no one. We have so few players. And even our better defensive players that we have on this roster right now, they're not superstars. They're just good. Jermaine Johnson is good. He's not a star. Will McDonald, pass rush specialist, very limited. Like, there's nothing AZ Thomas, he looks like he's going to be good. Good. Not a star, though. We have no linebackers, no safeties, nothing. We have some good players on defense, a few good players. So we're at 15, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to go 16 and possibly 17 years. And after that, there's no guarantees. We have to see how we draft. So this is what it's like to be a Jet fan. It's just suffering year after year after year. At least some years we had some good runs. We had hope. Novcraft, you say you want them to stay bad forever because it feels like it would ruin it. No, but it feels so good to win, man, and go to the playoffs. Those years where we won and we won playoff games, man, we really, really it really feels good. It's so worth it. I'll have my wife. My wife can't sit with me, Tony. I'm too emotional when I watch the Jets. She wants no part of it. I've introduced her here before. I've introduced her here. People have seen my wife on the channel a little bit in the past, but she's on Brooklyn Brothers Food Review. She was a guest on one of our hot sauce videos, and she's the one filming me in all my videos. And a lot of times we turn the camera on her. So if you want to meet my wife, go to Brooklyn Brothers Food Review and watch all my reviews, and you'll hear her voice all the time. Sometimes you'll see her reviewing some gluten-free food. I want to meet your wife. She must be amazing to put up with you. Thanks. Uh, that's a nice thing to say, Dana. Phil, you may be the only one who's happy to hear from me. You can't. What are you talking about? Oh, Harlem, Harlan. Thanks. What's up, Harlan? Uh, Phil, man, all the way in London watching. Let's see. It's 2 o'clock in New York, right? 12, 1, 2, 2:45, which means add 6 hours, I think, for London. So it's 8:45 p.m. Phil Adams just had his dinner. He's sitting there in the evening. I don't think they drink wine in England. Wine is for cunts. He's probably drinking a beer, a Ruddles or a Riddles, whatever they call it. Some kind of ale, dry ale. In Britain, we don't like to enjoy things too much. We drink our ale dry. Bitter. Bitter. Bitter ale. Bitter. Oh, it's 5 hours. So it's 7:45. 5 hours plus Mrs. Adams still in New York City. Your wife is in New York City? That's Why come you're not in New York City? I told you, if you're ever in New York, let me know in enough advance. I'll make a trip just to meet you, Phil Adams. And we could drink beer that is bitter. Bitter. We wouldn't want to enjoy it too much. We all make ourselves suffer a little, don't we? That's my British accent. International chaos. I'm going to imitate Dano, and then I'm going to imitate Dano doing a British accent, okay? Uh, Everybody, yeah. Let me look that up. Touchdown. 3 touchdowns for uh, Jonathan Taylor. Right. Now let's do him doing a British accent. Okay. Cheerio. I, I can't do it. She was competing at the Fitness World Championship of Florida on my home. Your wife competes in Fitness World Championships? Are you kidding me? Jeez. Uh, on way home. Oh, she's coming home. So she stopped in New York, or she's in New York on the way home. She probably had to stop through Kennedy Airport. That's how it usually works. Hopefully, I'm wrong and it's LaGuardia. Much nicer in LaGuardia. They redid LaGuardia Airport. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I say that because they got a Junior's Cheesecake restaurant with the wonderful pastrami and corned beef sandwiches. Corned beef sandwich. Delicious. Um, but anyway, you all heard that's my Jet story. Oh, by the way, I didn't talk about 2009, 2010, that ugly guy in New Jersey. He was all drugged up, drinking, laying in alleyways. He used to have to watch the Jet games through the window and watching them break his heart that way. By that time, he had a username. He added on to the green and added on the word bean. And he was in forums talking and everything. Like from the street, like in Newark, by the garbage dumpster. He would sneak into those little internet cafes before they would kick him out for smelling bad. Like he'd wait for someone to leave their computer station and leave it on by accident with them signed in, and he'd run over and he'd sign in his username, and he would talk about the Jets a little bit. Yeah, man, Fort Lauderdale to JFK. Yeah, you got to go always through JFK. I hate that airport, man. Yeah, we're glad for Green Bean's recovery. Yes, like one of the good things that happened in all this crappy Jet stuff is Green Bean is now Clean Bean. And he's lucky because if he wasn't, I'd kick his butt. If he ever, I told him if I'm ever with you and you even looked at a beer, I'd beat you down. And Green Bean doesn't think so. He thinks that I always let him think that he could take me. He's the stronger. He's the more man. Let me tell you something. I could smack Green Bean around. Okay, he's a little guy. He's nothing. He's a peon to me. A peon. I could take Green Bean and flick his head. A peon. But I'm a peaceful guy, so I don't beat up on Green Bean. I let the little fella think that if we ever got into it, he'd have a chance against me. So I I let the little fella believe. But the truth is, if he ever tried to drink a beer in front of me, I'd smack him right across his face. Then I'd grab him, squeeze his neck a little like he's a little kid, and he'd go, "Oh no, please don't hurt me." I'll say, "Put the beer down." Say, "Now sit down and don't make me smack you again." You know? So, you don't have to mention that to him, by the way. We don't want to embarrass him by reminding him of how badly I could beat him up in a fight. We don't want to embarrass Green Bean by reminding him of that. I'm more man than he will ever dream of being. There's no reason for us to put him through that kind of humiliation. So hopefully all of you guys will spare him that. Um, Look, why is there a laughing little icon emoji running up? um, so Danger's here. Tony Alexio's here. Phil Adams is here. She went from Fort Lauderdale through JFK. Now, international JFK might not be as bad as the rest of the airport. The dump that is JFK is mostly the JetBlue terminal. God, I hate that terminal. Oh my God, I'm so sick of that terminal. They used to act like it was nice. It's a big circle, and it's like, oh my God, it's just filled with fancy restaurants that are like, yeah, I'm in an airport. That's when I want to go to a steakhouse and pay $80 for a steak in an airport. Like they wasting all of their real estate with fancy restaurants that nobody can afford. Now they put a Jacob Pickle, one of my favorite places in the airport, but it's like $30 for a burger. I mean, give me a break. I mean, there is an artichokes pizza. It's not that good. They're bringing it in frozen and heating up the slices. But I mean, I guess that's reasonable. But there's barely any room. The plate it's overly packed. I'm sure the international terminal's a lot better though. International terminals are always nicer because they always got those duty free places. Duty free, duty. When I was a kid, I used to go, ew, duty. I'm not buying duty free. I love that too. Duty free. Well, I should hope it's duty free. I don't want no duty on my products. Uh, Green bean or green weenie. JFK is the expensive hood. Yeah. I got myself a pastrami sandwich at Junior's in LaGuardia, and it was wonderful. It was expensive, but it was wonderful. I mean, there's a difference. If you're gonna spend $30 at the airport on lunch, most airports it's just crappy food, and you're stuck spending $30. The difference with LaGuardia is you're eating a real corned beef or pastrami sandwich. That was nice. At least you're getting something for your money. That's why people don't go to Vegas as much. Vegas used to give away cheap food, like buffets that were dirt cheap or even free, $3.99. Like the whole thing about Vegas was that hotels wanted you wanted you in their hotel, so they used the food to lure you in. And then they realized, you know what? People are so pathetic and have so little value of money. We could charge them $50 to go in through a buffet. And these fat American cows will pull out their wallets and their credit cards and hand them right over to sit and walk through a buffet to eat buffet food. That's America. Danger Zone says, Chaos, I got to get you to Autzen Stadium. Autzen Stadium with me next year. Who plays in Autzen Stadium? I don't know who plays in Autzen Stadium. Is that where Oregon plays? Do the Ducks play in Autzen Stadium? The Ducks. Oh, I'd love to see the Ducks live. I watch them every week, usually during college football. I would love to watch them live, especially if Dante Moore comes back. It would be cool to see Dante Moore stay and play another year. That would be really cool because he'd probably be much better. Harlan, you wouldn't pay 50 for a buffet. Well, you shouldn't. I mean, but if you go to the Paris Hotel or whatever, the buffet is famous there, but it's like $50 for dinner to get in. It's not that good. It's the same as every other buffet. It's like, gross pasta. It's like things sitting in bain maries, those pans on flames. I mean, like, what the fuck? It's not good food. I guess they have crab legs and things like that, but I don't even appreciate that. Like, I don't like crab legs. I don't even appreciate the things. And then when the steak is never good. Oh, but we got steak. But it's not good. Once you eat good steak, bad steak, it may as well be dog food. Like, it's not even edible to me. Like, the only steak, even like I can't buy a steak at a supermarket. It's never good enough. Only Costco. Costco, the choice is good. The prime is excellent. That, or you got to go to a butcher and get like high. And if you're not paying a lot, if the steak is cheap, it's not good. You get what you pay for. Like, there's no point in buying a cheap steak. I'd rather just buy a piece of chuck and throw it in a slow cooker and throw in a bunch of stuff and just slow cook it and make it into a roast. But that's the only way. Just, you know what I mean? Like, it's either a good quality steak or you may as well just slow and just eat it like a stew. Like, eat it as pot meat. You bought a pastrami sandwich from a deli 2 weeks ago and it tasted so fake. My holy king, Jewish deli it's either amazing or it's done right, or it's just horrible. It's just a place that buys it and slices it, and they don't age it there, and it's not steamed, and like it's not the right thing. Like, it's like cheesesteak. Like, you either get real cheesesteak in Philly or somewhere that does it the right way, or it's gross. It's heated up roast beef and it's disgusting. That's the way it is with Jewish deli. It's there's very little in between. It's either really bad or really good. And yeah, when you just get like deli pastrami, that's not real kosher salami, like it's pastrami, like in it's done the right way, aged brisket. It's like rubber. It's just that glossy, disgusting, overly salty crap. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it is. You got to go to a real place. So LaGuardia at the airport, Juniors, not as good as going to Katz's or Second Avenue Deli in person, but really, really good. Like, really wonderful. It was a wonderful way to say goodbye to New York to have that sandwich. Like, it was nice because I didn't get a chance to go to a deli, so it was like that final little touch before I left New York. Yeah, Katz's is the bomb, man. There's nobody has better pastrami than Katz's. I know people go to Second Avenue Deli and think the pastrami is good. It's not even good. When you go to Second Avenue Deli, you get the corned beef because the pastrami is very, very. It's so far below Katz's, it's not even funny. Katz's is pastrami. Second Avenue is corned beef because I don't love Katz's corned beef. I like Second Avenue Deli corned beef, or Carnegie used to back when they were open. The old Carnegie Deli used to have great corned beef, but pastrami is Katz's. There's just no doubt about it. Hi, JC. Been a fan since I was a kid. I know you have, Mark. 1967. Wow. So I started my fandom in 81. I didn't even talk about the years of 67 to 80 that you were around. So that's cool. The best time I went to eat in Las Vegas was William B's at Stardust Hotel. That was very good. Huh. I don't know what William B's is. There's a lot of great places in Vegas. There's a Peter Luger Steakhouse in Vegas. They have all the New York steakhouses are in Vegas. Gordon Ramsay has like Hell's Kitchen in Vegas. There's two locations, which is great food. Um, but it's loaded with steakhouses. Like those hotels, there's so many great restaurants in Vegas, probably more per capita than anywhere in the world. Like there's probably nowhere you could be in the world than Vegas. Like if you're in the strip of all the nice hotels where you're within range of so many amazing restaurants. It's endless. All the great, because it's like the best of everything. Like all the great places in New York open up places in freaking Vegas. No good jelly in Pittsburgh, not like Long Island and Brooklyn. But in Pittsburgh, you can go to the Promeni Brothers. That's not Jewish deli, but you could get like a good sturdy sandwich with French fries on it. I remember the name Tad Steaks. I never had Tad Steaks, but I remember Tad Steaks. Like I remember the name Tad Steaks. I know it from something, but I don't remember eating them. Oh, Promenti Brothers is awful. Isn't it funny that like a lot of people think it's good because they throw French fries on them? But like you'd rather have a New York hero, right, from an Italian deli like a pork store and get like real sandwich, like chicken cutlet with fresh mutts or prosciutto, something real, or a Jewish sandwich, deli sandwich. That's the thing about New York. Like we say deli sandwich, we don't even know what you're talking about yet. Are you talking about the regular American style where it's just boar's head, which is pretty good? Good bread, boar's head cold cuts. Are you talking about a Jewish deli like Katz's? Or are you talking about an Italian pork store? Like so from New York, it's like so much of a higher level that you got to even figure out like what level, what kind of deli you're even talking about. Um, really good pizza from a guy who's the pizza genius, Rockaway Pizza. Excellent. Is that from? Oh, okay. So you found good pizza. That's good. Yeah, DeFara is there's a place called the DeFara Pizza Tavern in Raleigh, Durham, in Cary, North Carolina, by my mother. I go there. It's like family. They're like cousins or something, and it's amazing. It's like amazing. It'd be a top five pizza place in New York, and it's in North Carolina. It's called in Cary. I did a review on it. If you go to Brooklyn Brothers Food Review and look up DeFara Pizza Tavern, I did a review of it on Brooklyn Brothers Food Review. They have the recipe. They have a machine that makes New York water, like chemically makes it identical to New York water. They order all the ingredients, like it's the family. They know how to, it's legit. And it looks like the Farah when you serve it. Like, oh my God, it looks just like the Farah. And it tastes amazing. I don't know if in a taste test side to side if it's going to taste as good as the original in Brooklyn, but it's close enough that it's like the best pizza I get to eat because there's no hassle, there's no lines. Like you could go off hours and have no problem sitting down, getting a table, and getting a pie. So, um, yeah, I watch David Portnoy. Absolutely, I watch him. It bothers me. The only thing that bothers me about him is that I was doing Facebook videos reviewing pizza places in New York in 2014 and didn't know. And I had friends say, keep doing them. Those are really entertaining. And I didn't know. I didn't know about YouTube. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know. Can you imagine if I would have started? I was doing pizza reviews. I swear I was. Not the way he does. I wasn't giving it like the score. I didn't have the scoring system, but I was doing it. And I deleted it all. I put it on. Eventually, I put those videos up and everything. My brother, I think Matthew, put them on YouTube or something, and I deleted them all when I was going for jobs because I was afraid because I had my name on it that it would pop up and ruin a job opportunity for me. But anyway, I like Portnoy. I don't agree with him completely. Like we have, like, because he has one very specific taste for pizza, but he's good enough. Like Portnoy, if he loves it and gives it over a 9, it's definitely worth pursuing and trying, and it's gonna be good. Even though we might not agree at every level, if Portnoy gives it over an 8, I want to try it. So he's good enough and reliable enough that if he really loves pizza, it's worth checking out. You know, TNF's Pork Store in Franklin Square, best broccoli and fresh mutts. Man, I miss pork stores. We had one in my neighborhood in Canarsie in Brooklyn growing up. Oh my God, I used to buy this bread. It was a prosciutto and cheese bread. Like you buy this bread and you slice it up, and there were chunks of prosciutto. Oh my God. And melty cheese. It was so good. Man, do I miss that. The last thing I had from a pork store is Dom C brought me at the Jet game. He brought me a sandwich, a hero from a pork store from New Jersey. And it had like all the, it had the gabagool and all the stuff and the fresh mutts and roasted peppers. It was so freaking good. Uh Less food reviews to control my diabetes. Well, I could do food reviews where it doesn't do bad things for my diabetes because my pre-diabetes because I could review steak or hamburger without the carbs. The Polish bakeries in Queens in Greenpoint. Oh my God. Not only that, just the Polish food. The Polish food in Greenpoint, Queens. My God, some really good stuff. You watch Alton Brown's YouTube channel? My brother watches that. When I'm visiting him, it's always on the TV. Smart, man. He's like a genius of food, Alton Brown. I like that. I like how he explains things and, why the chemistry of cooking. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You stopped going to Vegas in 2018. I got married there in 98. Hmm. Wow. My Holy King's in Kensington, Brooklyn. Where's Kensington? What train? That was a train stop on the L train, right? Wasn't Kensington one of the L train stops? I grew up in Canarsie on the L train. The last stop on the L train, Canarsie, Rockaway Parkway. I mean, that wasn't where I lived. I lived deep into Canarsie, but Rockaway Parkway, by the train station, the L train and Rockaway Parkway, that last stop, there was a pizzeria right there as you walk into the train station called Armando's. I think they're still there. And they were famous for their square pizza, like really, really good square pizza. Oh, the Q and B trains. You know what I love about the B train? It'll take you to Yankee Stadium on one side, but on the other side, it'll take you to Coney Island. And it'll take you to L&B, and it'll take you to DeFara, all the good pizza. DeFara, Coney Island, you go and freaking go to Nathan's. You could stop at Junior's along that route on Flatbush and go to get a piece of cheesecake. And that B train, man, that line is heavenly for food. Like you can, and the Q, I think, is the Q the one that you can get off somewhere at Luger's, I think, or is that the M's? I think it's the M is in Mary train, the Brown train, the J train. That's the Peter Luger train. Um, Brooklyn used to rule pizza. I mean, they still have pretty good pizza in Brooklyn. I mean, they still have DeFara, they still have L&B, they still have Luciano's or whatever. There's some great places in Brooklyn. Um, I remember the steakhouse called Rinzi's. I remember that. I never went there, but I remember it. And I remember, Bay Ridge was Peter Luger's to me, man. I mean, they had plenty of good pizza places, but L&B. The great thing about L&B is I mean, you get the square slices, but the food at L&B was really great. The food was really great. You get a veal cutlet parm hero. Joe's Pizza Bleecker is one of my favorites. They have a lot of other locations. I don't trust it. I get off that A train or that C train or that F train on West 4th Street. I walk those 3 blocks over to Joe's. I like to go at like 11 a.m. before it gets too busy. And I get myself a couple of slices. It's just great. Sometimes I get one slice and then I meet a friend and we go to John's on Bleecker or we get a pie. So we get the best of both worlds. Very different pizzas. I don't compare. You can't compare John's and Joe's. It's very different. John's is like wood oven, whereas Joe's is just like the perfect Brooklyn slice in Manhattan. Joe's Pizza. Like it's like the highest level of quality, perfect sauce, cheese, the flavor is perfect, the crust is always crispy. I mean, Joe's Pizza is just phenomenal for that style of pizza. It's the best football pizza in the world. Let's just say that. Sicilian pizza is very good, not square pizza. Well, it depends. We call it squares at L&B. We always call it squares. Like it was Brooklyn talk, and yeah, that square pizza in Brooklyn was Sicilian. L&B is a little different. It's a different product. It's a product of its own. But when you went into a Brooklyn pizzeria, you didn't say give me 2 slices of Sicilian. You could, but you could also say give me 2 squares, square slice. It was perfectly acceptable to say it that way. Nobody ever gave you a hard time for saying that. But yeah, for Sicilian pizza, it was basically pan pizza. That's what it is. It's pan pizza. You're cooking the pizza in a pan, in a broil pan. I know because I worked at a pizza place. I grew up in Bruno's Pizza on Rockaway Parkway near the L train. Rinzi's great ribeyes and excellent chicken soup. Oh, chicken soup in New York, man. You got to throw a matzo ball in. I used to work at Bay Ridge Dotson, go there after work on the way to Red Parrot and Limelight in New York City. I remember those places. Oh, that's nice. The ribeyes. Yeah, ribeyes used to be one of my favorite cuts. Then as my teeth hurt and I don't like the chewing and I got more into the tender meat. I like filet, but they don't have enough flavor, so I'm a New York strip now because New York strip has a little of both. It's really tender and has flavor. It's kind of in the middle. Ribeye has the most flavor, filet has the most tender. New York strip is kind of in the middle of both. It's a balance. Grandma's pizza is very good. I'm not a giant fan of grandma pizza. I like the traditional slice. You know, um, I mean, I could do grandma pizza. It's fine. I mean, because especially at at DeFaro's, but for, straight up, when I go into a pizza place in Brooklyn, I just want a straight up slice. That's what for the most part, that's my go to. Used to rent limos, copious amounts of drugs and drink and females. Sounds like you had a great life, Mark. A great life. Getting high, stoned, partying, hot girls, artichoke pizza, creamy. Like remember, I remember artichokes when it first opened up, and they were on 14th Street between First and Second Avenue. They were really good, and then they started opening those other locations, and I don't know about that, but that original location back in the day, that's one of the ones I did a video of on Facebook. I love that place. That was great. It's better being sober, I bet. Well, I mean, part of being sober usually, well, I'm not going to make any assumptions about you, but as a therapist, I will say that part of the reasons why it's good to be sober is that part of becoming sober is also part of how you become sober. Maybe not for you, but a lot of people is to address their trauma and relieve a lot of their pain and get over things because usually addiction, drugs, that kind of thing is because we're running from something. There's some kind of trauma that we have to face. We become sober. That's the best when you resolve all of that underlying stuff. You know, is it against the law for New Yorkers to eat Chicago pan pizza? You even do it? I did. I went to Pittsburgh. I mean, I went to Chicago and I had a great time. I went to Gino's East and I love it. I don't like it. It's a different to me it's different food. And it's delicious food. But for me in Chicago, deep dish stuffed pizza is dinner. It's knife and fork dinner food. Whereas New York pizza is snack lunch slash snack food. I just think it's different. I'm not one of those guys who automatically has to hate on everything. Like I was perfectly happy in Chicago eating that stuff. Like every time I went to Chicago, I looked forward to it. I would go to Giordano's or whatever. We'd get a pie, and it's delicious. Doesn't scratch the itch for New York pizza though. It's different. So it doesn't. It wouldn't scratch the itch at all. Like I would still. I would go to Chicago on business. I would eat their stuffed pizza, deep dish pizza, and I would miss New York pizza the same that I did when I left on the trip because it's a different product. I don't like comparing them because they're so different. I don't even think they're worth comparing. They should have different names, like dinner pizza and lunch pizza. I don't know. The Italian pinwheels, doesn't that's are you talking about the ones they make at Crispies on all those videos? I wouldn't mind trying a buffalo one of those cheesesteak pinwheels and one of those buffalo chicken pinwheels. I wouldn't mind that one bit. Or the chicken vodka pinwheels. I would try any of them. Those all look great. That's the problem. If I go to Crispies, I'm not going to know what to get. It's going to be so difficult because they have so many things. Like it's so. See, if you watch my channel, when I review pizza, I always do a regular slice. Like I would get multiple things there, but like I always have to start with a standard slice Because I'm a original Brooklyn boy from the 70s and 80s. Okay? Toppings were something you got sometimes, fine. But pizza was pizza. You didn't need to have toppings. When you went into pizzerias, there was no display case. You got two slices and a Coke. That's what we did. Two slices and a Coke. Then they started this thing. Not only on the pizza, but if you want pepperoni for 40 cents a slice, you could they'll put some pepperoni on it for you. I never cared for that. I just got two slices and a Coke growing up. And then when I got a little bit bigger, three slices and a Coke. And then when I became the fat man you see before you, four slices and a Coke. That's right, I eat half a pie, bitch. They converted into the Limelight. A lot of history in those places. A lot of history. A lot of drugs. A lot of history. Remember? The roof. The roof is on fire. We don't know the water. Let the mother effers burn. Burn, mother effers, burn. Remember? Stop, dance, feel the beat. Rock your body to the native beat. Don't you know, man, and I'm just not satisfied. Dano is working, and I'm just not satisfied. Webster Hall. Been sober since 1988. Would never go back. Much easier to be sober. Yeah, I was never much of a drinker. I like good wine. I like good beer. Once in a while, just for the tasting of it. But I don't like getting drunk. I didn't have much fun being drunk. It's just sick the next day. I just never liked it. It was never worth it to me. I'll drink one beer at a brewery, like that's still. I love the taste of it. I'll enjoy a delicious beer. I'm not looking to get drunk though. New York City was so much fun back then. I remember. What about the '90s? Were pretty fun when all the clubs went into the '70s mode, and all the girls would wear the bell bottoms and they'd play Grease Lightning and play Meatloaf. Do you love me? Will you love me forever? Do you need me? Will you never leave me? Will you make me so happy for the rest of my life? Will you take me away? And will you make me your wife? I gotta know right now. Before we go any further, do you love me? Will you love me forever? The arcades. Kings Plaza in Brooklyn had a great arcade. We used to love going to that arcade. We'd go to Kings Plaza, and there was a place called Shatskin's Knishes, and I would get a pizza knish. I used to love it. Then we'd go to the arcade. We'd play in the arcade. There was like a newsstand across the hallway or whatever in the mall from the arcade. We would go there and we'd get like candy or something, and then we'd play in the arcade. And then sometimes we'd go to the Nathan's. Remember the Nathan's in the Kings Plaza? We'd go there because they used to have back in the day when Nathan's had the full menu, like chicken buns, which was like fried chicken sandwiches before they were a thing. Like you had the Burger King original chicken, and then you had chicken buns. In Nathan's, they had this really good fried chicken sandwich. Um, I remember back in the day where you could get corned beef and pastrami, really high level, good corned beef and pastrami sandwiches at Nathan's in Coney Island. I used to go there and pick them up for my grandfather. So he wasn't allowed to eat it. My father wouldn't let him eat it. He was like 98 years old. And he would say to me, "Can you go to Nathan's?" Because my grandfather lived in the apartment my father grew up in. His whole, like, they never got rid of that apartment. So when I was like 25, 23, 22, 23 years old, I used to go visit my grandfather and in Brighton 6, and he was across the street from the boardwalk. And if you walk down the boardwalk for 10 minutes, you're in freaking Coney Island and there's Nathan's. And my grandfather would send me to get him a corned beef sandwich. And he wasn't allowed to eat that, but I figured he's 98 years old. He can eat whatever the fuck he wants to eat. He's 98. What is he got to freaking eat salad so he could live longer? Fucking, you're on this fucking planet for so long. The guy wants a fucking pastrami sandwich or a corned beef sandwich. So I went and I got it for him. And I will never forget. Maybe I got it from him, my passion for food, because I never forget a 98-year-old man biting into that sandwich and just, he would go, like he would just make a sound like, so delicious, so wonderful, he would say. Like he'd say that. It's so wonderful. And those are good memories. because he would say to me, he goes, "You're my good grandson." Like he'd say, out of all my brothers and stuff, he'd say, "You're the other one that's like me. You know how to enjoy life." Man, but yeah, I just said, and then he was, he would do his shot. My grandfather did a shot. He called it schnapps. Didn't matter if it was brandy or whiskey or scotch, whatever it was. He would do one shot at about 5 p.m. every day, from the time I was a little kid to the time he was 104 years old and finally passed away. But Kings Plaza was the place, man. That was where we went. We were teenagers. Where we saw movies. Yeah, Shatskin's Knishes, which I loved. There was the movie theater upstairs. There was a health store upstairs, or not a health store. That was a weird store. I don't know what the hell they sold, but for some reason they had Jamaican beef patties, and that was before all the pizzerias sold Jamaican beef patties. The only place I knew where you can get a Jamaican beef patty was one place was school lunch, or that place in Kings Plaza on the second floor. And I used to get the Jamaican beef patties because I loved them. That or a pizza knish from Shatskin's, Nathan's. That was what we did. And then there was a Roy Rogers in Kings Plaza before that was before there were a lot of them, so it was cool that you could grab that. And then they had a Red Robin before it became a burger place. Back when it was just like it was very different and new, and people liked it. There was that one location, this restaurant that kept changing what it was. Like it was a Mexican restaurant called Chi Chi's, and then it became Red Robin. We used to eat there. There was the Kings Plaza Diner that wasn't far from Kings Plaza, and there was the Floridian Diner, which wasn't far. We used to sometimes we wouldn't go there when we were in the mall. We would go there later when we were driving. Sometimes we would just drive to those diners. Um, the movie theaters I used to go to besides, well, there was obviously Canarsie Movie Theater, which was a little tiny shithole of a movie theater. But when I was a kid, I didn't think so. When I was a kid, man, it was a movie theater. I saw everything there. I saw Rocky 4, Rocky 3. I saw Return of the Jedi. I saw her in Canarsie Movie Theater. Um, that was my movie theater as a kid that we like when we'd go out with girls when we were 14, 15. We had female friends. Ooh, we met girls. We would go to we'd go to the Canarsie Movie Theater. Also, there was the Georgetown Movie Theater that we used to go to. So the main three movie theaters were those three. Then when I was a teenager, Sheepshead Bay, a place called Roller Palace, which is a roller skating rink, right off the Belt Parkway in Sheepshead Bay, became a giant UA movie theater place, like a multiplex of movies. And they opened up a TGIF for Fridays, which Brooklyn people jumped all over for some weird reason. We couldn't get enough of it. And we started seeing movies there when I was older. But when I was younger, it was Georgetown Movie Theater, Kings Plaza, or the Canarsie Movie Theater. Oh, sometimes we would take the B50 bus to Kings Highway, and there was a movie theater. Once in a blue moon, we'd see a movie in the Kings Highway movie theaters. And I used to like to go there because there was a Blimpies, and Blimpies used to be really good. I wouldn't go there now, but man, there was a time where Blimpies was a place to get a sandwich. Let me tell you something. Like that stuff. But yeah. And then we had a place called, what was the name of that little amusement park in Brooklyn? Uh, Nellie Bly, I think it was called. Yeah, Nellie Bly. We used to go to this little amusement park called Nellie Bly. And you could they were like you could win prizes and play like they had all the stupid game like walking around and you try to with the water guns you fill up whatever they had all that stuff. So Nellie Bly, and then there was Gateway that was out towards the Rockaways, like past Kings Plaza, where you go hit softballs or golf balls or whatever. We used to go to the batting cages. So they had that. I'm trying to think, what else did we used to do? We used to drive to Queens on Sunrise Highway. There was a Nathan's with a giant arcade, and there was movie theaters out there. Although I only think that was much later when we were driving. That maybe we saw a couple of movies out there, and we would go to that arcade and that Nathan's. We'd go out to Lenny's Clam Bar in Queens. We just really liked Lenny's Clam Bar. But then we had on Shell Road in Sheepshead Bay, there was Randazzo's, which if you like baked clams, you went to Randazzo's. I saw Star Wars movies for the first time at Leighton Barracks Theater in Woodsburg. Then went to the pizzeria Ruckdorfer Strasse. Were you like traveling in the military in Germany or something? Like it sounds like you were in Germany, Harlan. I don't know. Rottendorfer Strasse. Yeah, that sounds like freaking Germany or Amsterdam or something. Harlan, a well traveled Harlan. Harlan making his way through Amsterdam. Oh, da. Eat French fry with mayonnaise. Yum, yum. Go Jets. Were you ever based in the UK? Can you imagine being based in the UK as an American? Having to listen to that all day? I get up to here, load my rifle, try to shoot my rifle. Oh, lucky you Yanks decided to finally join us in World War II. It was nice of you to finally join the party. I lived in Würzburg, 3rd Infantry Division. Wow. You were like you were an infantry guy, like one of the men lined up with the rifle. Good old Harlan defending the United States of America. Thanks for your service, brother. We appreciate it. Dano. My name's Dane. We're gonna let me look that up. Würzburg. Let's see. That's in Europe. They got good food. I'm tired. I had a client that canceled, so I'm trying to see if they want to reschedule. But that's why I got stuck in the office. I got an hour and a half before my first client actually comes here in person. Thursday, I might have 5 in a row if they take me up on my offer. I get offered them a time. I might have 5 in-person clients in a row. That's gonna be crazy. Out you go, in you come. Out you go, in you come. Out you go, in you come. There was still U.S. bases in the UK in the 70s, 80s, mainly USSAF. Phil knows his stuff. Phil knows. Check your text after the stream. Uh-oh. Okay. I will definitely check my text. You don't think I'm going to notice once I shut out of this? It's probably going to be Dano saying, "Stop making fun of the way I talk. People are going to start catching on, and then I'm going to be a big joke." I don't want to be like you, Chaos. I want people to take me seriously with my long red beard. uh, but it's nice to talk about Brooklyn. I was that kid in Brooklyn, like some of you here, my holy king, talking about these places, but watching the Jets, enjoying the food. You can't talk about growing up in Brooklyn and not talk about food. It's impossible. It's such a big part of our life, right? Can you imagine like somebody from Brooklyn, even Frankie from Flatbush, if you get him talking about Brooklyn and his life growing up, he's going to get into food. He's going to bring up Lenny and John's and the rice. Like you can't not do it. It's just such a big part of our life. Brooklyn was Brooklyn back then. Man, I miss that Brooklyn. Check out Brooklyn Brothers Food Review on YouTube. But man, do I miss that Brooklyn, my holy king. I miss that Brooklyn, man. Those could never be. Remember those days, man? We would take the buses, B6, the B78, whatever your bus was, the B50. Remember when it would snow and we'd skeet? We'd grab onto the back of those buses and get free rides. You can't ever go back to that, man. Marine Park. Remember Jan's, the ice cream place? Yeah. Being from Brooklyn used to be a big deal. Look, right here, man. That's my L train right there on my arm. I'm going to get the New York skyline behind it one day. I'm not done yet. See that, Dano? See, Dano, you could be a construction worker with the beard and try to be all hard. You got to tat yourself up, bro. Until you get tatted up, you know? Yeah, man. I still love saying I'm from Brooklyn, though. Where you from? Brooklyn. Except that people just don't know what Brooklyn means anymore. Like they have a different idea. Like if they're from, like they think Williamsburg and all that hippy dippy stuff. And it's like, no, that's not what Brooklyn is. Hmm. Fortress wheel in his a flying fortress wheel in his garage. You work for the U.S. Air Force. Wow. How much weight have you lost, Jeremy, and how many more? Oh, I still got to lose like 50 pounds. You have a tattoo fund going? Hard to find good artists around here. In Oregon, best artists don't go to Oregon. You got to come down to Sacramento. We got tattoo shops all over downtown. LA, obviously, LA's got some great tattoo shops, but it's not bad. Sacramento's got some good places. It's a big tattoo type of area. We got tattoo shops all spattered all around our downtown. My wife found someone great that she discovered for us. So, but yeah, you got to find a good tattoo artist. Yeah, it's important. You got to look at their work. You can't just go to anyone. Hmm. Phil's got a long history. So Harlem, man, these guys have been around. Like Al Pacino. Hoo-wah. I've been around. Whoa. 5 years ago, I would have taken a flamethrower to this place. Hoo-wah. Anyway, guys, I gotta go. I'm like dying here. You see, I'm exhausted. I gotta rest up. I got a session coming up, so shoot, I got some notes to do too. I gotta do that, get that done. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Take care of yourself. Be good, everybody. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll all hang out again soon enough. Remember, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll be with Matt O'Leary on his channel. We'll be talking football with Matt O'Leary on the Matt O'Leary channel at 3 o'clock tomorrow. And then I'll be back on Sunday night in the Danger Zone with my good friend Dano, who is over 500 subs. We're trying to push his channel to 1,000, though. That's the goal. 1,000 subs for Dano. He deserves it. One of the best Jets YouTube content providers out there, and it needs more acknowledgement. There's some great content coming up. So take care, everybody.